Welcome to Newswire Daily. The focus today is on Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, who has arrived in Washington for one of the most critical meetings of the year, a face-to-face discussion. With Donald Trump at stake, long-range weapons, renewed U.S. support, and the future of Ukraine's war strategy heading into winter. Zelensky touched down in Washington on October 16th, ahead of a scheduled meeting with Trump at the White House. The agenda centers on air defense and long-range strike capabilities, particularly the U.S. Tomahawk cruise missile. Ukraine's leadership hopes these talks will secure approval for the advanced weapons package it has sought for months. Kyiv's top aides have confirmed that securing Tomahawks and integrated launch systems is Zelensky's highest priority. Ukraine's infrastructure has faced relentless Russian missile attacks, leaving the country's power grid severely damaged ahead of the cold season. The government believes that with Tomahawks and Typhoon launchers, Ukraine could finally strike back deep into Russian territory, deterring future assaults. However, Washington remains cautious. Officials acknowledge U.S. stockpiles of Tomahawks are limited, and transferring them to Ukraine could strain America's own defense reserves. The U.S. also faces pressure from European allies who fear that deploying long-range weapons could provoke Moscow into a wider conflict. Adding another layer of complexity, Trump's meeting with Zelensky comes just weeks before his planned trip to Budapest, where he is expected to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin. This rare sequence of diplomatic moves places Trump in the middle of two adversaries, raising global speculation about whether the U.S. might shift its stance on the war. Zelensky, meanwhile, is trying to balance urgency and diplomacy. In recent statements, he expressed hope that successful peace negotiations in the Middle East might serve as a model for future talks with Russia, but only once Ukraine's security is guaranteed. Before the meeting, he also met with several U.S. defense firms and lawmakers to discuss future reconstruction and energy resilience projects. Despite the optimism, risks remain high. Moscow has warned that any U.S. decision to arm Ukraine with long-range weapons will be seen as a major escalation. The Kremlin has hinted it may retaliate militarily if such transfers proceed. Inside the U.S., debate continues over the cost and consequences of deeper involvement in the war. Both leaders are expected to hold a joint press briefing after the Oval Office meeting. While few anticipate a full breakthrough, the encounter could redefine the direction of U.S.-Ukraine relations in the months ahead and shape how both Washington and Moscow calculate their next moves in the conflict. This meeting is more than a simple diplomatic encounter. It's a test of how far Washington is willing to go in backing Ukraine's war effort, and a signal to both Russia and NATO about where the next phase of this war may lead. Stay tuned to Newswire Daily for the latest updates on the Trump-Zelensky meeting and the future of U.S.-Ukraine relations.